Okay. Let's give it another minute or two. Folks start trickling in. See if we can get this. I'll let you guys know as soon as we're live on LinkedIn. Make quick introductions.
All right.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Likewise. I was going to ask if this event was sponsored by Icebox.
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. All right. Well, I think we're gonna, let's see. Come on, LinkedIn. Should be live in just a sec. All right, we are live, and folks are starting to come on in. Welcome, everybody. My name is Louis Balla, CRO partner over at Nuage. Got a couple of friends and colleagues joining me today, Alex Stoica, Glenn Saunders. I'll have them introduce themselves in just a moment. But today we're going to be covering NetSuite optimization. So figured we'd bring the dream team to join us today to tell you a little bit about what we're seeing out there, what's working, what's not working, how we can make your lives a little bit better as it relates to NetSuite optimization. Alex, you want to provide a quick introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the customer success manager at Nuage. My role here is just to ensure that our customers are getting what they expect from partnering with us. As far as my background, I've got 22 years of managed services experiences, and I'm in the Raleigh, North Carolina area.
Thank you, Alex. Glenn, you want to introduce yourself, and maybe if you could just share a little bit about what the hell's a work packet? What is Stratus by chance?
Absolutely. So I'm Glenn Saunders, COO here at Nuage, and had the unfortunate pleasure of knowing Louis for about a decade at this point. So we are not only business partners, but are friends and have been
Still
for some
friends.
time.
Yeah.
Still friends, surprisingly. That's difficult to do. But so I've been working in the ERP space for about 20 years. I got my first experience basically working in a receiving dock when I was a kid and learning how to software and how it all integrates. And I've been pretty much doing this since I graduated college, worked with a variety of systems, Microsoft, Epicor, some others, and been working with NetSuite since 2012. So been around the block for a bit. And so Alex is part of my team that works within Stratus, which is our NetSuite continuous improvement optimization plan. So essentially customers will align with us and say, we're really not getting the most out of what we use or need from NetSuite. We have this Ferrari, but it just sits in the garage and collects dust. And what our team does is we come in and we do an assessment. We help map out a plan of success based on guidance from the customer, and then we execute against that plan. And Alex is part of the team that makes sure that we do execute against the plan that we outline and make sure that our customer gets the return that they're looking for from their investment in NetSuite. Because to me, that's what it's all about. So many times people invest in ERP and they aren't really quantifiable goals at the end of it. And go live is not the goal. Go live is just the first step and to steal your line in the evolution, Louis, which you like to talk about is it's an evolution, not a revolution. And that's 100% true. And that's entirely what we do within Stratus is that continuous evolving door of how do we get better every day with what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other key that I would say is that our customers have dedicated folks on the team, which is a huge differentiator compared to other places, where they always kind of have a continuous relationship with the folks and they're just an email or phone call away. So our customers really enjoy that from the feedback that we've received.
It's a good point.
Well, thank you guys for those introductions. Let's dive in. Let me see if this works. All right. So today, what we want to talk about, what you're going to get out of today's conversation, I think is pretty important here. So, from an insight standpoint, what we did is we looked at all of our work packets, basically everything that our customer base was asking for the first half of this year. And there's a lot. There's over 5,000, and we tried to synthesize that data to the best of our abilities and found some interesting outliers. We also found some patterns as it relates to the seasonality. So today, Alex is really going to be diving deeper, giving you a couple of real world examples on what we saw, how we solved problems, what that ROI looks like. So we'll actually be talking about the dollar signs as well. And I think what you'll glean from this conversation is, hey, I could probably do some of this on my own. I could leverage a team like Nuage to help me some of those last mile or more complex requirements. But all in all, very insightful, pretty consistent what we've seen year over year with what folks look for in the first half. And we'll talk about what some of our customers are looking to do in the second half. So let's go ahead and let's dive into our organization. Our organization started this, over the course of really the last, I'd say, 3 years from continuous improvement and optimization. We've been around since 2011. We're going to be covering kind of some of the spotlights that we saw in our analysis was on healthcare, food and beverage, nonprofits, manufacturing, professional services. So we'll dive deeper into those and some of the other industries that we serve. As far as the top 10, I think you guys are probably sick of hearing me talk. Alex, do you want to take a crack at what we saw with top 10 NetSuite pain points over the first half of this year?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can, if you go to the next one, we can kind of take some of these down individually.
Sure. No
So
problem.
like the payment and banking errors, there's 2 stories that come out of this. One of them was a healthcare provider that came to us. They're struggling with persistent payment matching issues due to the complex insurance reconciliation. So their finance team was spending almost 30 hours or so each month just manually untangling these. And we were able to implement automation, exception-based workflows, and that eliminated most of their work, probably about 90% or so. So it reduced errors, but it also gave their finance team just a breathing room and focus on their analysis and what they really should be doing to just drive the effectiveness of the business forward. So what's one of them, and then I'll give another one real quick. Just a nonprofit client that we had as well that you were talking about audits in the second half, first half of the year. So they discovered a bunch of just misapplied payments from third-party integrations. So we were able to come in, validate the third-party integration layer, and set them up with real-time notifications and approval checkpoints. So that way they would get real-time proactive alerts. So that drove their accuracy from like 60 to 95% of just reconciling. And that was a really good, neat hearing it from the CFO as well, as they were telling us that it was the first month-end close they've done in a year that didn't involve a fire drill. So that was really good feedback from them as well. So those are the 2 I've got for this one. So this was our top one, the payment and banking errors.
And Glenn, anything you'd want to shed as it relates to the time impact and the ROI?
I think as organizations grow, that concept of we've always done it this way and looking at, and that's kind of what our team comes in and does, right? Is they come in and they say, in the best case scenario, how would this work for you? And I think that's where we can save time, money, effort, mistakes, all of those things by just knowing how to either develop solutions in some cases, with the way we've got like our central payer model, or where you can pay from one subsidiary into multiples, those types of things, to just knowing how to fix the code, and nothing against the guys who wrote it originally. It probably worked fine, but things change over time and they need to be updated and maintained. And that's what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the 20 to 30 hours per month on manual rework is insane. So,
that's half a week. That's half of a work week for somebody. And let's say they're an accountant, it's not a $10 an hour employee. It's real meaningful money to an organization.
Mm-hmm. So let's jump to the next one here. Next one, Alex, you want to take the show as it relates to workflow and search issues?
Absolutely. So this one, it was one of our food and beverage customers. So they had over a dozen broken safe searches and just workflows that just weren't misfiring, just not working right, which in turn just led to an uptick in help desk incidents per month. So we came in, rewrote some of those scripts, removed some of the legacy code, like Glenn was referring to, and then standardized the approval flows. And out of that, it was about a 50% drop in just internal ticketing on their end. And also on top of that, it was just the reporting cadence that they could now trust, where they wouldn't have to question it and go back and double check things. So that was one of our success stories with this.
Yeah, I find this pretty fascinating. Every time we talk to someone and just ask, hey, how many scripts do you have running? I don't know. And then you look underneath and it's like, oh, I have 1,300 scripts running. It's
And it can cause
astonishing how-
performance issues are very common. And it's very hard until you get in and tackle them individually as well. If they're not well documented when they come with us, that's something that we help them as well with our intake process. Is try to figure out how everything fits in.
Yeah, so many times you install the NetSuite bundles and it just runs on everything. And during implementation, nobody stops to think, well, does it need to run? Does this script need to be deployed on this record? And it has a performance impact every time you do it. And you got to kind of go back to the drawing board. Again, why is this deployed on this record? We need to look at it and validate it, those types of things. And,
and I'll add another one is as NetSuite advances and they release and improve the product more and more, some of those customizations that were done in the past are no longer needed. So that's another situation where you've got to go back and clean out the system because it's not going to do that on its own. So it's always worth getting an analysis like that.
It's funny, and Alex, you and I have been around long enough of doing legacy systems and on-premise, and you always did that during the upgrade process. And one of the ways NetSuite used to really go to market, particularly with cloud, is, oh, it's always up to date, you're never falling behind, and da 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 da. You still get system bloat on cloud systems because what was relevant in 2016 when you first deployed NetSuite is no longer relevant around
taking all the baggage with you.
Optimization. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's keep going. Integration and sync failures. Kind of the same thing.
So this one, I'll use one of our e-commerce customers, Shopify ADP, of course, real popular software to link into NetSuite. But they've had frequent sync errors that created ghost transactions instead of NetSuite. So we had to go back and look at their middleware logic and layer and just kind of rebuild that with exception dashboards to catch those proactively. And then instead of them, something down the line where they would find it days later and have to go back and figure it out, they would now get alerted immediately when situations like that would come up when those syncs weren't working properly. So this saved time for them on the cleanup because the further you let it run, the more you have to go back and clean up. So this one, from when we were asking them, what kind of impact that had, they had about a 25% reduction rate in just cleanup alone in the first quarter that we implemented that.
I'm curious, I guess a question for both of you. We saw a lot of this happening in kind of the April-May timeframe. Anything that comes to mind as to why this spike happened in kind of those 2 months?
I would take a guess with just, especially with ADP and things, just tax season. Having all the integrations and getting a lot more requests for those and having the employees and such looking for their documentation and all those things. That's probably why, because that's the most time that those are used.
Yeah, I think also coming out of audit, so a lot of organizations get audited in January and February, and they kind of come out and they're like, oh, here's some things we identified that we need to correct. Or challenges we had that, particularly like when we were talking earlier about the bank syncing errors, like,
Yeah.
oh, that happened, so now we need to address it. We need to take action on those. So.
Yep, remediation season.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, now we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive. I noted healthcare, a couple others. Top 3 challenges. We talked payment reconciliation, the bank side. Alex, anything you want to add as it relates to multi-entity consolidations and the compliance configurations here?
Yeah, so this one, intercompany billing compliance, we had a customer that was pretty much their Achilles heel. So each month they'd have to go manual calculate allocations across, I think they had 5 subsidiaries. And so we deployed a suite of just automated billing scripts tied to role-specific dashboards. And then that, of course, improved their accuracy. And they actually passed the following audit with 0 findings on that area of it, which was the first time they've had that before. So that was a good, really good success story out of that.
That's great. So I guess you're saying with Stratus, you don't even need auditors at the end of the day.
Oh, you always need auditors, but it's about what they can find.
Keeping them on their toes. There's not enough work for them. That's good to hear.
How about reduce the audit bill? That's what we like. Accountants don't like that.
All right. Well, let's dive into food and beverage here. So inventory inaccuracies is always a given. I feel like everybody we talk to in the food and beverage industry always seems to struggle with this. Outdated SKU logic. I feel like this has never changed. You know, and a lot of it's kind of broke. Let's not fix it until it blows up in our faces.
Yeah. And a lot of these go through the seasonal surges. So it causes big impact when you have just the outdated SKU structures, inventory inaccuracy when you're going through the busiest time of the year. That's thinking back, that's where we've really been able to help some of our customers during those times, and just being able to implement like quarterly SKU reviews and automated exception searches for expired SKUs or ones that are low turn. And then we can usually probably improve it by 20% as far as order accuracy, and that also affects CSAT as well on their side, right? Because if the customers are looking at things that are no longer there, it's not a good look for anyone.
And Glenn, a question for you as it relates to kind of the 2 food and beverage business models, whether it be kind of everything outsourced, co-man versus everything in-house. Anything you see on those 2 where maybe these challenges are a little bit more pertinent on one versus the other?
Well, you know, we do a lot, and as you alluded to, with customers that don't manufacture, they move the product, handle the product, particularly in food and beverage as well, right? And then the other complexity in that model is you're using third-party logistics in the most cases, particularly if cold storage, right? Because you have to be closer to the source of where you're delivering. And I think the challenge there is inventory syncing and inventory accuracy. And so knowing what you have, where you have it, and when it's going to expire is really critical. And I think that's one of the things our proactive service and management is we're trying to help build the guardrails and information reporting, right, to leverage that in the system. And I think that's where understanding what you have, where you have it, and how you can use it. Do you need to run a sale on different things? And of course, seasonality as it impacts those types of industries. You know, ice cream and popsicles are flying off the shelves right now, but come December, they're not necessarily going to be, are 2 critical factors. And I think that's where our team really, again, taking that outside look of best practices. And again, we learn the business as we go through it, but we have a lot of experiences to draw on from the hundreds of customers we've served over our lifetime.
Yep. Okay. All right. Well, let's do another deep dive. I think we've got 1 or 2 more. Let's talk nonprofits. Nonprofits. Ooh. Always a can of worms with cleanup. Top 3 challenges we've seen first half: access errors, from rotating admins, the donor communication gaps, grant reporting issues. Alex, you want to take this one on for us?
Yeah, I mean, so can't overstate the rotating admins. It's just the way the nonprofit industry works. So there's a lot of chaos that can come out of that when it's not properly set up for a continuation. So with those types of customers, we work with just standardizing role templates. So that way they can be set up easily for new folks coming in and taking over those roles. And also with the donor side of it, just scheduled reporting that feeds into live dashboards for them to be able to keep on top of them. And then one quote that I'll mention from a customer we had is they said, for the first time, we didn't have to beg someone from IT to pull their year-end funding report. It just worked. So it was just something where they were just used to just always having to figure out manually how to get things going and go through multiple channels to do it internally. And it's a lot of them are simple fixes that we can set up with reporting.
That's great.
Yeah, I think an area, I was actually looking at a prospective customer's NetSuite environment not 20 minutes ago, and it's just the people that don't get the full-fledged reporting out of NetSuite that it's available. As we have gotten better as an organization at Nuage, my dashboard is littered with all different kinds of metrics from services and financial and all different types of things relative to the business. And so many people underutilize that type of thing in NetSuite because they've always just done it in Excel or something to that effect, or they call Jim and IT to get it for them. And we really try to work to empower the organizations to report on their own without having to have those financial analysts. When we talk with Josh at Causey, he talks about all the financial analysts you have to employ. We try to cut some of that down by giving people the tools they need to be successful.
So I wanted to pivot really and get into just the notion of seasonality. And what I'm hoping is, Alex, you can talk through what we saw from a pattern standpoint over the first 6 months and put our forward-thinking hats on and get your guys' take on just what do you think is going to be a priority over the next 6 months?
And it largely depends on the industry, but a lot of them can be predictable at this phase. And we service customers from every single industry, so we're pretty much in touch with how those works and what we can kind of recommend as we get through the different season with them. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just having the all-around experience from working with with the different customers that we have, and being able to tell folks that, hey, we've seen things that you guys are trying to do work better this way with other companies. I think that's a big thing that comes from the experience side of it.
And I guess to look forward in what the remainder of the year looks like from an optimization standpoint. Glenn, Alex, what do you guys think, or what are you seeing from a requests and work packet situation now that you'll be conquering over the next couple of months?
I think, well, we've done this for a while, but the tariffs, and we're kind of back in this it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on, it's off concepts. And I think we're getting back there now, since we're not focused on some other political things, but that's a real challenge for organizations, and helping them adapt and build conduits in their business to be able to adapt quickly to these changes is going to be, I think, going to be an underlying theme for the next 6 months to most things that we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll bring up one thing on tariffs. We had one of our customers went to their industry type convention, and they're talking to different competitors out there, and they were praising us and bragging about how we were able to turn their tax, their tariff stuff with the changes that they wanted pretty much within a week. Where some of these companies with other vendors, partners they had, their request was in the queue, but they had no visibility how long away it was going to be, and it's just one of those things where some of the larger companies out there, sometimes it goes into a black hole, and there's items that you need that
Yeah.
are urgent, especially with this tariff issue. So
And then it's changed again.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, exactly, and then you've got to
It just changed again.
Yeah. Hope nobody has copper. Let's talk about just the ROI and impact on what we saw. I like to describe this as the cost of waiting, the compound effect. Alex, time savings, I know we covered, but we've got a couple folks who just hopped in. With these three, anything you want to point out?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of manual work is being done by companies that don't have efficiency put in and effectiveness. And that's a huge thing that we can help with. And it can cut down on just manual effort and being able for those teams or finance teams to just focus on some of the core things. And especially even like data entry and things like that, that just from integrations and things that they've been doing manually. It just frees up people to be able to do things that help their companies just thrive instead of just doing the manual work for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think important to note this $33,000 from an impact standpoint is only on fixing payment, banking
Yeah.
errors, the workflow issues, and integration sync. There's so much money that is wasted as a result of inefficiency in NetSuite, which there's easy wins out there.
Yeah.
But just
And
these three
sometimes
examples.
our
Yeah.
customers don't even know they have those issues until we take them through our intake process, and then
Mhm.
we kind of try to uncover and get under the hood and see how things are running and where again it comes back to just being able to have the expertise and the knowledge of what we've done for other customers automation wise,
Mhm.
to be able to help them out. And sometimes they don't even think about that that's a need, but once we talk to them about it and implement it, they realize how much how much work they were putting in on doing those tasks.
Yeah.
There's so many times I've gone into organizations and it's just, well, that's how I was taught. That's what I do, and nobody takes a light and says why. Not that you're doing it wrong, but why? And would it be helpful if we did X, Y, and Z, and that would streamline the process to the point where it's 8 minutes instead of 8 hours. And
Yeah.
the worst argument I always get is, well, it's not like we're saving money because we're still paying that person. It's like, right, but they can focus on value added activities
Absolutely.
versus stupid work. To be fair.
Yeah. So Q3, Q4, immediate actions in Q3. Alex, I feel like I've been talking forever. You want to take this one as well? I think people like your voice better than mine.
No, you're good. Yeah, so I mean, again, it's the rotating year. So as you're getting ready for audits and going through those things, that's another piece. We've been talking about just on the finance side, but that's another manually intensive thing right there. Is just
Mhm.
audits, especially if you're usually being asked the same questions year over year. So these are items that we can just automate to where you can just have them set up to be sent to you just around the time that you have your audits. And it's just makes it a lot. It's kind of like your taxes, with the online world, it's a lot easier to do them. You can just log in and pull stuff from everywhere, instead of manually keeping up and going through all the paperwork and figuring things out. So that's one thing for sure as we get ready for that towards the end of the year, or in Q3. Then I think the reason you're seeing integration peak there is because in some industries they have more time now to be able to focus on internal work,
Mhm.
and just fixing whatever the type of issues that they know are the problems. And that's where some of that comes in, is just being able to focus and improve the internal processing. Um,
So clean up and optimize is the name of the game for Q3
yeah.
and Q4.
Yep. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I've got a couple questions, kind of keep the conversation going, and I think we'll end in a couple minutes. But which of the issues we covered today, Alex, Glenn, are you seeing most often in folks' environments? Is it those three we covered today, or anything that's starting to poke its head out Q3, Q4?
I think it varies. The intercompany stuff is kind of typical of complicated industries, software, services, healthcare. And then the other side of that is inventory and customers that are using manufacturing or distribution in NetSuite. So it kind of just varies based on what they're utilizing.
Mhm.
And to me, I think the biggest reason people invest in software systems like NetSuite is the ability to understand the business and the data better. And to do that, it has to be set up correctly. And the data has to all be collected. And I think that's one thing we do a great job of, is we're helping organizations that may get live on NetSuite at a bare bones, as we know NetSuite itself likes to do. And then you've got to figure out how to track the stuff that's going to make a difference and going to move the needle for the business. So I'm always big on analytics and reporting. That's to me the reason you invest in a system like NetSuite.
Yeah, and I think there's a misconception as well, that the assumption is once you get implemented and bare bones is what will solve all the problems and will make lives a lot easier. And it has a lot of, NetSuite is a very powerful tool, but you've got to be able to know how to use it and what to customize in it too, because not businesses aren't cookie cutter. So
Yeah.
and that's where our development team comes in as well, with customizations.
Mm-hmm. Want to ask question 2 here. Biggest pain point you're seeing right now as it relates to really June and the start of July? Anything poking its head out, screaming at you on a daily basis, Alex?
I mean, I'm gonna say it's the tariffs again, because it is what we're dealing with. We're working with multiple customers, and they all have different business plans of how they want to handle those.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to be able to adopt and be able to deliver on that type of customization for each one. Because again, it's not just because it's a tariff. It's not every customer is going to handle it the same way. Not every company will handle it the same way.
Yeah, and
But they also need to allocate for it. Yeah.
I'd encourage folks. There's Avalara does a tariff talk. I believe they still do it every Tuesday morning. Things are changing by the hour, seemingly. You go on Reddit, it's like, oh God, what now? So I think having a finger on the pulse is important. And Avalara, one of our partners, does a really good job of keeping their finger on the pulse and making sure updates are there. We're all just trying to drink through a fire hose with these tariff changes. And I think, going to question 3 here, questions about implementation timelines, approaches. We see a lot of folks just wrapping up their implementation and leaning on us for optimization. Alex, question to you as it relates to what is most impactful for these organizations who have just gone live and are turning to us to not just do optimization, but theoretically back office accounting work as well.
Yeah.
What do they need? What do you typically recommend as it's over the course of the first months?
What we recommend and what we do when we onboard a customer is do our intake process. And I think that's crucial, because it goes back to the customer doesn't know what they don't know. So they're not going to be able to, they're not going to know everything that NetSuite is capable of, but they know the results that they want. and they know that after their implementation, they don't have them, and they want them, and that's kind of where we come in with that.
Mm-hmm. Well said. All right. Well, lastly, if you're interested in hearing a little bit more or speaking with us, I'll give the floor to both Alex, you, and Glenn to take us home and end with some closing statements, if you don't mind.
For me, it's all about the team. Alex is a critical component within that team. He works very closely with our consulting manager and our solution success manager, our development manager, our intake specialist, specialist manager, and that is what I see as my role. I know NetSuite. I've been working in it for a really long time, but it's about the team and the concept of we make sure that we are our number one focus is customer success and making sure customers are successful and utilizing NetSuite as intended as best they can. And it's really a testament to the team that's the magic juice. That's what makes this work for us. They're exceptional. We have an exceptional team, and that's my 100% focus is making sure we provide the highest quality talent to our customers with the mission of your job is to make them successful.
Yeah. And in my 20-some year of experience, I've worked with large corporations, startups, and the differentiators that we're not too big to be able to just have white glove service for our customers. And I think that's the biggest thing that they want is just to be able to have access to someone immediately. To have if they want to talk through something, set up a call today, tomorrow, whatnot. I think that's huge, just compared to the traditional managed service model where it's ticketing system based, and it just goes out and it's a shared pool of resources, and it could be somebody that hasn't touched your NetSuite instance, and that's the first time they're looking at it, and you're asking them to do something complex, right? So with us, we developed the tribal knowledge for each one of our customers. We've got tenured folks that are supporting them, so they're intimate with the system. They know what's going on, and it helps them to be able to recommend the best options for them.
Well said. Certainly appreciate you guys spending some time. I'll be sharing this document for anybody who DMs us or asks. It's available, and we're happy to review it one-on-one, specific to your use cases. Don't be shy, but please feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. We'll make sure we include our contact information in this event. But with that, we'll call it, and certainly appreciate you guys spending the time, and hope everybody has a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right. Well, have
Appreciate
a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.